Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing something a little different. So, literally nothing was going on this week. First, the most important segment of the day. Let's check in with Maddie Girl.
You want a treat? You want a treat? Can you sit? Good girl.
Okay. Now that that's over, we can get into the video. So, the only thing I had to do this week, required for school, is a TA orientation. I have to do that, and then a little bit of a homework assignment for another class, and then that's really it for the week. So I thought, what could I make to keep the videos rolling out, to keep another video this week? So I figured I would just kind of talk through my story a little bit from college to where I am now, and kind of explain what God did for me, what God did for us, and how we got here right now. So I came to Tech, Louisiana Tech, for my undergraduate in the fall of 2016, and I changed my major 3 times. Started off in marketing, switched to supply chain, and then decided that I didn't like accounting or economics, so I switched out of the business school just because I didn't like the lower level classes, into math, which I thought I wanted to do more, and it took about 1 quarter for me to realize that that wasn't for me. I switched back into supply chain since I was already halfway done with the degree, and when I got into my upper level courses, I absolutely fell in love with it. There was not a major that I feel like I was better suited for with what God gave me as my gifts and talents and my train of thought and how I approach problems than supply chain. So fast forward to the quarter I'm graduating in winter of 2019. I have been a member of the Honors College up to this point, and I am working on my kind of final thesis to get my honors hours out of the way, get my honors degree. And that was really all it was a method to complete my honors degree, get those hours and get that on my diploma. I graduated and immediately began working in procurement for a Fortune 500 company. I thought what I wanted when I was in school and when I left school. My plan was that I was going to work for 2, 3, 4 years, go to a top 20 MBA program, get a good score on my GMAT, get accepted into one of the big MBA programs, land a consulting gig, making well over 6 figures, and then ride my way to the top over the course of my career. It took me 3 months of being in corporate America to realize that that was not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I felt like I was just recycling what someone else had already done to put in place. And I wasn't doing or creating anything. But nevertheless, a few months persist where I still think my plan is I'm going to go get my MBA and then I'm going to shoot to the top. Keep in mind that I said that was my plan, and it wasn't necessarily God's plan. So that summer, I started thinking, I was like, man, I don't know about this. And I started to look up PhD programs kind of out of nowhere. The thought came into my head one day, and I started to look into it. It's hard work to not only go, as I'm going to find out soon, it's hard work to get accepted, but it's not a secret, and it's not a closed club that you have no method of getting in. So I began to go back to my professor that I wrote this paper with. Was my favorite professor in college, and my wife and I sat down with him and his wife. We had dinner one night, and I just started asking him questions about what a PhD program is like. And what would be the best way to get accepted, and just looking into it. And so after that, I came away knowing so much more about it, but I was still wrestling with wanting to continue my upward trajectory and continue to make more money and continue to get closer and closer to a position of leadership, where I could have some authority and some power. And it took me a few more months of wrestling with that when I told that professor, hey, he offered me the opportunity to go to a conference for that honors thesis that I wrote. He said that he would submit it for presentation and get it on the docket, and I could go down there with him and present that. So fast forward a few months, I say yes, and at this point I still have not applied anywhere. I've talked to some schools, I've talked to a couple of students, I talked to one school in particular, and was just really on the fence. And I ultimately said yes to this conference, and when we're preparing to go down there, I had stumbled onto the University of South Carolina. I told my wife, I said, do you think I should apply here? I think I'm really interested in this place. And this is maybe the week before the conference. And she said, well, I think maybe if you're supposed to apply, then you'll have someone put in your path and you'll know after this. I decided not to email any of the faculty, not to email any of the students. I get down to the conference, and then 2 weeks later, I'm on a plane to Columbia, South Carolina, where the next 18 hours, I go from professor to professor and interview, and in waiting to hear back, there wasn't really ever a doubt in my mind. That was the only school I applied to, was the University of South Carolina, which for most grad students, they would say that's crazy. Why would you do that? You need to apply and have options so that you have fail-safes. And if this school, that was the only school I applied to. If that was where God wanted me to be, that was the only place. And a week after I visit, week or so, I get an email on Christmas Eve that says, you've been accepted, congratulations. We both had prayed that if this was meant to be, then I would get accepted. And it was. You go back and forth, and the doubts of, am I qualified for this? Am I good enough for this? Are we going to find somewhere to live? And just knowing and resting in the fact that God would not have brought me this far and brought me through that many coincidences. My mom likes to call them God winks, where you just know he's got his hand on you. It's just stuff that other people, they have no way of knowing, or they have no way of knowing what they're saying at the time, but you know God's just winking at you a little bit. And now that we're here, and I still deal with the worry that I'm not qualified and that I'm not smart enough, I don't have the background, I don't have a master's degree. And I alluded to it a little bit about how I was feeling some imposter syndrome about math. In all of those challenges last week, when all these numbers are swimming through my head, I just have a peace, and I'm having a blast. And I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to do that and ultimately become a professor and be responsible for teaching the next generation of business leaders and being an example of Christ. And not only that, but just waiting to see what God has planned for us, because he's brought us so far, and this whole opportunity has been a blessing. And I'm just so thankful for that. I appreciate you guys listening to the ramble. If you did, I just wanted to share my story a little bit from how I got from where I was in college to working to here. Talk about how God had his hand on my life, had his hand on my wife's life, and our life together, and brought us here. And just want to talk about that a little bit. I appreciate you guys listening. Subscribe if you're not already. Like it if you did. And if you didn't, let me know why. Do something good for somebody today. See ya.